I think Blake Lively is status driven, but not in the way you think. In the last video, I was explaining why Justin Baldoni not knowing pop culture was so offensive to Blake. But in this video, I want to talk about why it actually is critical for Blake. I feel like I've been getting too granular as I'm thinking about this. I'm like in analysis paralysis. So I'm going to try to just talk like I did before I was actually invested in this. And hopefully you'll follow what I'm saying. So this is really the framework I have for Blake at this time. And seeing her through this lens is making me question things like whether or not she was in love with Baldoni, whether or not she wrote the rooftop scene, whether or not this is about her body. I have different perspectives on that now because I have this information. And this information is based on the research that I've done on really a handful of texts between her and Blake and her and Justin. I'm going chronologically, so I'm just up to April. However, I feel like looking at her prior to the conflict is probably more accurate in some ways. So I feel comfortable saying this. In my last video, we discussed how she thinks and why Justin Baldoni telling Taylor that he didn't know pop culture was actually very offensive to her. It's because she seems to have internalized this etiquette. That was a word somebody gave me. Etiquette for how they should interact with people who have more status and power than them. It's almost like she has no sense of self, but this hierarchical thing that maybe she was socialized into as a kid because her parents were in the industry is how she learned to think about herself or learn to value herself. Because in all of her writing, she never really says anything good about herself, believe it or not. She only says good things about Blake and Taylor. And I keep calling Taylor Blake, Taylor and Ryan. And you really get the sense that she doesn't seem to think that she has any value outside of them. It's completely external. I think that's why Justin not giving Taylor her due praise affected Blake so much, because Taylor's legitimacy is what gives Blake legitimacy. If Blake had her own sense of self-worth or believed in her own value, she could have possibly just said, why did you say that to her? Or moved on or anything. There are plenty of examples of people who are in kind of the same situation that acted differently because their entire being and value does not depend on how other people see them. Hopefully you get where I'm going.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Maya her views on interracial relationships.
Oh, thank you. And first, I'm Miss Angelou.
Miss Angelou.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not Maya. I'm 62 years old. I have lived so long and tried so hard that a young woman like you or any other you have no license to come up to me and call me by my first name.
This clip is definitely different, but it shows someone who is secure handling this misstep with grace instead of panic and rage. Maya did apologize to this young lady. Oh, I'm sorry. Miss Angelou did apologize to this young lady for being too sharp. I don't know if I'm ready to say it, but there is a lot of this whole thing that's simply about power. She didn't get the power that she was expecting to have. And it's not that she wants control, but it's that she doesn't know who she is if she isn't given the right image, if she's not mirrored in a certain way. It's like she probably feels empty. Okay, I got a few examples and I'll get up out of here. This was interesting. This was her talking about how it felt bad when Baldoni didn't give better feedback about the rooftop scene. She says, which of course didn't feel great for me or them. That was interesting to me because why do we care what it feels like for them? It's okay that it just felt bad for you, but she does this many times. She also says, so I think they wanted you and me to see how they felt about the work. why do we care how they feel? But everything is like that. Everything is Blake, Ryan, and Taylor, and how they feel is what validates how she feels. It's almost like whatever she thinks or wants or desires or values doesn't matter if it isn't validated by people who have more power than her. So I think that's a lot of the problem. I think that's why she was genuinely wounded over Baldoni not knowing pop culture. It really makes me wonder who she would be if she married someone like Penn Badgley instead of Ryan. Okay, hopefully I got it across. I wanted to say something different when I made the last video, but you know how it is when you just like think about things too much and it almost becomes like oversimplified in your mind. But I really want to talk about the Khaleesi text next because there's just so much there. So stay tuned.